Hi, my name is Jake Mezrahi and I'm an artist, and today I'm going to talk about two of my paintings, which are actually part of a larger series of paintings. I don't have all of them here, so I'm just going to talk about two of these, and the rest are basically the same idea. So, I made these paintings just over 10 years ago in 2004, and you could see the painting right now, but as I explain the story behind it, we'll look at some of the details. So, the first time I actually went to Israel was 2003. This is based on Israel, but something happened. Couple events happened earlier that inspired the creation of this painting. The first one was actually the first time I wanted to go to Israel was in high school. They had a exchange trip, but at the time the Intifada was going on, and I don't know if the trip was canceled or there was an issue with it, but I didn't end up going. In college, around 2000, around the time Birthright started, I had also started to look into going on the trip during college. And again, for the same reasons, the Intifada and the terrorism there, I did not end up going again. In 2002, uh, I learned that my first cousin, was actually killed in a suicide bombing in the Megiddo Junction in June of 2002. He was on a bus, and a terrorist boarded the bus and detonated the bomb, and his body was thrown from the bus, and he was killed. This is again my first cousin, and that occurred in 2002. 2003, I finally made it to Israel. I went on my first trip to Israel, and it was a birthright trip. And I came back, and there was still terrorism going on at the time, as there is today. There was bombings, there were shootings, there was threats, there was many bombings that were stopped. There was just everything going on. So this painting is based on terrorism in Israel, inspired by, again, mainly the event that occurred in 2002, which was the death of my cousin, who was killed in a suicide bombing. Of course, there are many other hundreds of victims who were killed in suicide bombings and thousands who were injured. So this painting and the one behind it, which is very similar, okay, are again part of a larger series of paintings on the subject. So this painting is, as you could see, a kind of Jackson Pollock style drip art, where I laid the canvas down flat and dripped on paint. Okay, different colors of paint, and I'll talk about some of the colors that are represented in the painting. So in the center of the painting, you could see the Jewish star, and two white lines, so a blue star and white lines, representative of the state of Israel, the flag of Israel. It is again distorted, and that's what the effect of the dripping paint is supposed to represent: the distortion, the war, the craziness. The other colors you see, other than the black kind of background of the canvas, is red and green. Okay, red clearly symbolizing blood, and the green symbolizing the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, that protects the state of Israel. Okay, and some may probably look at the green as the symbol of the Palestinians, which I think is part of their colors. So if you look actually closer to the painting, I'm going to bring it in. You're going to see something very interesting. See if you can get a good view of it. Okay, embedded in the paint is bullet casings and nails, screws, other metal objects. Okay, the whole painting has embedded in it these objects. Again, the bullet casings for the war, the defense, and the nails, like this big one over here, and over here, and here, representing the suicide bombers that strap bombs to their body, fill them with pieces of metal, mostly nails, screws, that when the bomb detonates is meant to create maximum harm and injury to civilians and anyone around. Okay, as you know, when a suicide bomb detonates, thousands or hundreds are injured because of the shrapnel, the metal that's exploded from the object, which again was the case of many of the suicide bombings that occurred around the time I visited Israel. Suicide bombing that killed my cousin, and suicide bombings that have been going on for the whole length of the conflict. So there are many other things that this painting is meant to represent, and that's just a storyline behind it. So why did I paint it? Again, I, like any other person, have emotions, thoughts, feelings, ideas, and the way I express them is through art. And this painting was an expression of a feeling of anger, a feeling of sadness, a feeling of mourning, a feeling of confusion, and also a feeling of hope. So again, I'm filming this today. Today is Tisha B'Av 2015. It is a Jewish day of mourning where we mourn for not only the destruction of the two temples, but also many other catastrophes that occurred to the Jewish people over many, many years since the original two exiles from Israel approximately 2,000 years ago and 2,500 years ago, the Spanish Inquisition, and of course even the anti-Semitism that occurs around the world today, and the anti-Semitism or even today's threats against the state of Israel, which is really threats against the Jewish people. Don't be confused. Any threat against the state of Israel is a clear threat against all Jewish people, even if some groups like to disguise it as Zionism, saying they're against Zionism, but clearly it's against the state of Israel. And this message needs to be said loud and clear today as it ever, as much today as it ever needed to be said. So this painting is again clearly in saying that we need to resolve this conflict. I don't know the answers. I'm not saying I know the answers. This is a painting about discussion. This is a painting about, again, emotions, about mourning, about hope of that one day there will be a resolution to the constant conflicts and the attacks on the Jewish people. Okay, the people of Israel, the Jewish people worldwide, and so forth. So again, here's the same painting, again, just two different versions of it. And I have another one painted. It's 4 by 8 feet. Okay, so it would be a little too hard to maneuver in this video. And I think about 4 or 5 other ones, literal ones that have a slightly different message in them. Thank you for listening today, and I hope you come back for more videos on other topics. Again, Jake Mezrahi, artist. Thank you.